All right, so that's the finale. Let us move into our recap or our review of the season as a whole. I loved what we did for Game of Thrones, so let's name some of our favorite characters. MVP of the season, Bob. Who was the best character, the most valuable character this season?
I'm gonna go with Joan.
Okay.
Well, because I think she deserves this title because she wasn't given the screen time she deserved in terms of her Avon account, like we've already covered. But overall, she's really come in on her own as a really important figure, both in the time frame then and also for the inner office politics that are at play. I just like to see how she's evolved with the child she has, but then with the job she has, and I don't know. I just like seeing her making the best of life. I think she's a great character.
All right, most valuable for you, huh? All right, sounds good. Shannon, who you got for most valuable character?
I think I might have to say Bob Benson just because he came in and he shook up so much. He came in and he shook up so much stuff. Like he had the most effect on other people. And I mean, I say that I want less Bob Benson and I want more Joan, but really, I'm really happy all the time, no matter who I'm watching on the show, honestly. So,
But Bob Benson, I love it. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll just go with the other answer and say Dawn. I mean, it's sort of set up for Dawn to be the most important character, but I really liked his arc this season. Just his persona, his Don Draperness disintegrating, fading away, and the Dick Whitman coming out. How's that gonna to look in his future? As the season went on, I liked the arc, even though I think some people out there may not have. All right, who is most underrated this season? Shannon, let's start with you.
underrated?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Bob Benson too, because I think he's the most valuable, but a lot of other people are like, "What's this guy doing here?"
Okay. All right. He was a good device to make a lot of people react to and put him in new situations. Certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bob, who you got for underrated character?
I'm going to go with Roger. I wanted to see more play between him and his daughter and his grandchildren. He's sort of been downplayed more and more season after season, and I miss Roger being at the forefront of the story. Now he's sort of one of the supporting characters, which is too bad.
And he manages to steal every scene he's in somehow.
Yeah.
Just that
He's so
charm, charisma,
Exactly.
dry humor.
More
Yeah.
Roger. Come on, guys.
He's so old school.
Yes, he is.
He's very
Absolutely is. I'm going to go for, what are we on? Underrated character? Did I skip worst character? Okay, so underrated character, I'm going to go with Pete. Pete's awesome. To think about. He's someone that we love to hate, and I just think that makes him so interesting. So I
Give you
think
that.
Pete did a lot to carry this season. He had a couple of good comedic moments, like not great, Bob, when Bob asked how he was
So
doing.
funny. Everyone on this show is so funny. Whenever they get to have a comedic moment, it's always like, oh my god. Like Ken Cosgrove tap dancing.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my god, Jones, Jewish neighbor lady voice.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
That was good.
So funny.
Okay, so let's go back, circle around, and hit worst character. Who did you just not want to see? Bob?
Peggy. I know this is a little controversial because she's supposedly like the second lead.
Wow, yeah. Okay,
But
make a case.
I just didn't enjoy her screen presence at all. Like she was always a function of whoever was around her. She never owned up to anything. And I got it like early on in the season. Like her first boyfriend, buying an apartment she didn't really want, having a relationship with another guy at the office with Ted, who enters into the show. And just seeing that going downhill before it even started, just everything about Peggy this season was too much to show something that I understood long ago. So
That she's indecisive?
not that she's indecisive, that she's powerless. She's at the mercy of her environment and the context that others create for her. She's not owning up or taking even when she does like get a little bit of power and she has people under her, she doesn't know how she squanders it. She doesn't do very much with it. Nobody respects her. They all just put on a show. I mean, maybe it's fascinating, and you guys can disagree and say like, oh, that's part of the exposition of where she's going as a character. But
Hmm.
I thought it was too long and drawn out, and everything about Peggy I could have understood with a lot less screen time, and I understood it a lot earlier in the season. So
Okay. I think I'm still interested in her journey.
sure.
But I love the controversial pick there, Bob. Even though I'm with Shannon, I love Peggy.
Okay.
Shannon, who do you have for worst character?
Worst character? I don't know.
Or character we saw too much of. Let's sort of combine those
Yeah.
concepts.
I don't know. I'm really happy. I think it's such a great feat that they've created this ensemble piece that I really honestly am happy no matter who I'm looking at. Like they give me enough to deal with, you know.
I feel like you want to say Megan because then I want to disagree with that. So if that helps.
No, I liked Megan a lot better this season than I've liked her in the past. Well, I've never liked her, but I not liking a character is not the same as not being
Right.
interested in them. You know, like even though I'm like ugh when I see her, I felt less ugh when I see her this season because she's got a lot more to do. You know, she has her own job now. One of her coworkers wants to have a
Well, I'll
foursome
jump
with
in.
her.
I was going to choose Megan.
Okay.
Oh.
If we never see Megan again, does that change the story? I think we're fine, right? I mean,
Aw.
Megan's sort of interesting. Not actually, no. Why did I say that? I was just trying to throw you a bone, I guess.
You're just trying to make me feel better.
I think Megan has run her course. That's we've had enough Megan in this
Yeah.
show.
I think she makes a lot of sense. I completely understand why Dawn would fall for her. You know, like she's been a great lens into a certain kind of the culture that we don't get to see with all these other suits that we have to watch all the time in the 60s. But yeah, I mean, I see her now. Next season, she's going to be in California. She's going to be a movie star. That's fine. We don't need to see her own journey anymore. Like it's interesting to see her like her marriage explode, but other than that, like if they get a divorce, I would not want to see her life the way that I still want to see Betty's life.
Yeah.
We'll put it that way.
And that changed, though. I mean, I was tired of seeing Betty for a long time, and then this season she had her renaissance, her rebirth, and I was finally interested in Betty again.
I was happy with Betty the whole time. I will watch Fat Betty, Crazy
Bugles
Skinny
eating
Betty. I will
Betty.
I will watch Fat Bugles Eating Betty. I will watch Crazy Skinny Betty. And now I will watch Politician's Wife Betty. I'll watch any Betty.
Okay, so Shannon, I'm still confused about your pick because when
I don't have
Bob
one.
suggested Megan, you're like, no, Megan's okay. Then I said Megan was the worst, and you're like, yeah, Megan was bad. So
Well, no, she's the worst. Like, yeah, we don't need her anymore. I was still fine with her this season because
Okay.
she hadn't run her course yet. Now we're done with her. She
All
can be
right.
in California now.
Some of us are done with her.
well, let me give you just a little exercise. Make the case that Roger was the character we saw too much of.
Roger, no. Not enough Roger. Not enough anyone. Not enough.
All right.
Not enough Meredith the secretary.
Well,
All right.
Bob Benson for being your favorite pick or whatever. I don't know. I think he was teetering on too much. So
no,
you can't say not enough.
I
You can't say
know.
not enough Bob. He like stole the show for being a new character for the season.
Yeah, but that's okay. That's okay.
All right.
I wish it were a 2-hour show now that we have Bob.
Okay, so here's a question I have for you. What would have been like if this episode, this season finale, had been the finale of the entire season? Could that have worked that way?
Not so well. I think that would have been a little disappointing. I still want some more closure with Joan as my pick for what was she, underrated MVP, whatever she was. We need more closure with her.
Oh, well, that's interesting. So what has Joan's story been? Like, where does she need to go for you to feel satisfied with Joan as a character this season? Or this series?
Well, she has her husband out of the picture, I guess, but she has a child with Roger. She had to do those crazy things to get to the partner level she's at, but she still feels like tied to the company. She doesn't have enough to retire off of. Like, I think she's finally in a position where she can choose her own destiny, and I want to see that fruition. I want to see that come to fruition. I feel like she's just on the verge of controlling her life and showing us what she's capable of.
I want to see a spin-off show of all the deleted scenes of Joan and Bob Benson hanging out and having gay best friend times. I want to see them shopping. I want to see them at the beach.
All right,
Don't-
I give
Got
you
a little taste of that with I've gained weight. Oh, you can't see it.
You
That
can't
sounded
tell.
like a little taste. That's
Oh,
going to be
totally.
the teaser of that new series spinoff.
Oh my gosh, they gave me a taste and I want more. Gail got her hair done for you, Roger. In that apron? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that was great. That was great. Okay, all right. What about you, Shannon? How would you have felt if this had been the end of the series?
There was a lot of finality to it, especially, I mean, like, as I said before, like, Dawn not at the agency is really feels like the end of something, you know? Unless he's...
We've seen the rise and then the fall. I mean, this is rock
Yeah.
bottom for where Don has been
Mhm.
the whole time we've seen him, certainly.
It didn't feel like... It felt like a really strong end of the season. But yeah, I don't think we checked in enough with everybody else necessarily to make it feel like it was the end of the show. If it were the end of the show and I had known that, maybe I could be okay with it. But since I know there's more to come, I can't even really follow that thought exercise, I guess.
All right, all right. So let's get to some predictions here, huh? Where will Don be living next season? What do you think, Bob?
I think he's going to be in New York. I think he's going to get rid of this apartment. He's going to find a smaller place.
It's such a nice apartment, though.
Yeah.
It is nice, but it's too much of a reminder of Megan plus his lover upstairs, and it's just he's all sorts of screwed up if he lives there as a single
You must
dude.
not understand New York real estate, Bob. I don't know if that's enough to outweigh a great apartment in New York.
Well, fair enough. Yeah.
But you have a good point, though. You have a good point.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
Where's Don gonna be living, Shannon?
I don't know. So much of this whole season has pointed to Don living in California, but now California has all this other stuff attached to it. I don't know. Like, are we gonna come? Because we skip a lot of time. So like they've told him he needs a few months to recoup or maybe go to
Did
rehab
they say
or
months?
whatever.
I don't think they said months. That's sort of what we assume, right?
That's what we assume. But they said it's open-ended. Can I have a date? No, I don't think we
No.
can do that to you yet.
And remember Freddie Rumsen when they gave
That's
him a
true.
leave of absence, and it was basically the end. I think he showed up again, but
Yeah, he showed up
basically-
again.
But it's basically the end for him.
Yeah. So I have no idea. I don't
Strong
know.
prediction there. Strong prediction. People are gonna love that one.
I
Shannon.
have no idea. I think Megan is going to be living in California. I
You
don't.
heard it here first. No idea.
No idea. I don't think they know either. They seem to have painted themselves into a pretty strong corner.
What I'd love to see, I felt there was a little foreshadowing for this. What I'd like to see is, we pop up in a couple months, and Don is at a little desk trying to turn it into a big agency, just like Stan said, just like he said to Megan, on his own. Maybe even California. Why not? The problem is, would anyone in that whole office go with Don if Don said, "I'm starting my own agency"? I'm just trying. A couple of years ago, yes, but I don't know if he could poach anyone to say,
Now,
"Come
yeah.
work with me."
Now, no. I mean, yeah, who would go with him?
Not even Stan. I would have thought maybe Stan, but this
Not
made
anymore.
it clear. Stan
Yeah,
had to
not
go
now.
save his sandwich from Don eating it first.
Eating it. I know. Stan's like, I put on a goddamn suit for you for that conversation, and you threw me under the bus.
And when Don said, "Maybe I can get you out there with me," he's like, "What, to work for you? No thanks."
Yeah, that's not what Stan wants. It's not what anybody wants. Nobody wants to work for Don. Not even Peggy.
Yeah.
Especially Peggy.
Right.
Maybe he can save his secretary, Don?
No, that job is too good to risk. No way.
Maybe he can save Clara, who always dresses the best of anyone, since Pete's going to California.
What's the name of the other dude that we saw? He went on a date once. He works with Peggy.
Oh, Ginsburg? We didn't even check in
Ginsburg.
with Ginsburg.
Yeah.
There's no way that could have been the finale because we haven't seen Ginsburg.
Right.
There's no way.
It's important enough that they're
Oh my
gonna-
god! Can I go back and say underrated character Ginsburg? Because I
There
completely,
you go.
I completely
Yeah.
forgot about him until right now.
He
and
was
I
so
love him.
underrated you couldn't even remember him in the moment.
He is great, and we just are completely ignoring him.
I agree.
Ginsburg. Maybe Ginsburg would go with Don to California.
Exactly. Good pick for both.
Maybe. I miss him.
Okay, that's good to know.
How could he told Peggy that he was a Martian, and no one commented on it. That's amazing. Do you remember that? He was
No.
like, I am exactly. He told her, I am a Martian.
Receiving transmissions or something like that.
Yeah. No, he said he was a Martian. I mean, he said he was receiving transmissions, but I think he used the word Martian.
But we haven't seen him in a couple episodes, right? Maybe
No.
he's at
had
a
the
funny farm.
movie. We had the meltdown with Manischewitz, and we haven't seen him. So
He's coming back. He's coming back with a vengeance.
Maybe he'll be the one working with Don at his little agency.
Exactly.
Wouldn't that be great? Don and Ginsburg running their own little agency.
In California. That would be amazing. He'd be like Woody Allen in California, though. That's not...
So how does this compare to other seasons? Better, worse?
Middle of the pack to worse. It's.
Oh, okay.
I've been more impressed with Mad Men. This wasn't my favorite. It's a little long in the tooth. It's. I'm excited for the finality of next season, and because I think it's had a good run. I don't think it's like jumped the shark, but I think it's not as good as others.
So I've read some people who think that this season, so unusually for the way TV is made, before this season was made, they had a contract for 2 more seasons. And so since they knew this was not going to be the finale, I've heard some people say it felt like we were in sort of a holding pattern. We were just like, let's set up a few things that we'll be able to play with on the last season.
Right.
That maybe it wasn't a full season's worth. And you kind of agree with that, it sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, some things happened that were semi-interesting, but in the end, like the scene between Don and his daughter, and the fact that Sally catches him, that was probably one of the most interesting developments of the whole season. But then they quickly downplayed it, and it didn't get much attention, like I thought it would in classic earlier season Mad Men style. It was too easy for it to be dismissed, and I guess it's going to come back with a vengeance next season is the idea. We'll see.
What about you, Shannon?
I think that there was a lot of... that this season felt really heavy-handed in certain ways that it's never felt before to me. Like all of the stuff with Don's...
Wait, you're trying to tell me you don't think of Mad Men as being a heavy-handed show?
No, I think it's really subtle. Or this season it was crazy. There was a lot. There was...
All right.
With the whole Manolo thing aside, like we had like the episode about... We spent a lot of time in whorehouse flashbacks.
Oh, that wasn't great. That's
which
true.
Didn't show us anything new. I mean, now we know like explicitly why Don has all these issues with women, but we could have inferred. Like we already knew that his stepmother was abusive. We could have inferred that he was maybe not all the way to that he was, sexually assaulted when he was young.
But we could have done with a lot less, I agree.
But we could have done with a lot less of that. And there was a lot of, symbolism in that episode with, like, Sylvia and Megan. And we already know that Don has issues with women, and we already kind of know why. So I guess in that way, this season felt a lot like a holding pattern, at least with his relationships towards women.
Mm-hmm.
But...
So I felt like... Well, it's weird. I felt like most seasons of Mad Men have been like an A+, and this was an A, which in comparison is maybe slightly worse, but I don't mean to criticize it. I mean, I feel like we had some great moments in this season, especially if you go by my my give it or feel like shit meter. We had Sally walking in on Don. We had Don revealing himself. The Dick Whitman story in the last pitch. Loved Betty's comeback. That was just like wow to me. Various things like that. The high points were really great, I think.
Yeah, but if you compare that to, do you remember when Peggy has a baby out of the blue? Like when that happened, my mind was like blown. And then in this show, everything that happened, I'm like, Manolo, Pete's mom overboard. Okay. Like by comparison, it's just as extreme, but it's like the impact and the delivery is like meh. Like I'm not invested in what's happening anymore.
Maybe it's just because there was too much. I mean, there was Don's virginity loss / assault, and then there was Ken getting shot in the face, and then Mom overboard, and then like there was like a lot.
Yeah, that Ken getting shot in the face is a perfect example of it's indicative of the entire problem with Mad Men right now. If Mad Men has a problem, I don't mean to overstate it, but like to shoot somebody in the face, show them dead for a couple of frames, and then bring it back as like, oh, just a minor incident and a joke as part of a storyline of like they wanted to grab lunch on the way to the hospital, and then they like move on to the next scene. It's like, what? Like, that's a character we care about. Like, you can't just mess with us like that.
I like, maybe though, the more we talk about it though, I mean, and there was also the breaking and entering in the apartment.
Yes.
I think all this stuff though makes sense for the year. Like in the past, we've had like one per season. Like there was the Peggy baby, there was the lawnmower foot, like one per season. Joan getting raped, big what moment. But it's 1968. Like there's a lot of turmoil, violence, riots, cities are burning to the ground. I think, and there's a lot of uncertainty in everybody's life. It makes a lot of sense for this season to be that way. And I don't think anything in this season happened that doesn't make sense for the character that it happened to. Like I bought everything. Jury's still out about Pete's mom, but I bought everything. As far as character development, it makes sense. There was never something that happened that I was like, well, she wouldn't do that or he wouldn't do that. Or that was completely unbelievable. Like Ken getting shot, and people get shot all the time for hunting. And it makes sense that like a New York guy like Ken would hate Detroit.
Yeah.
And for him to be held at gunpoint and shot in the face in the same season.
I guess
maybe that makes sense for 1968.
I'm just Mad Men desensitized because I'm not remembering these things as aha wow moments anymore. It's just very like I'm vested because I've stuck with the show. I enjoy it, but when Logan's like it's an A instead of an A plus, for me it's like it's a B instead of an A or a B plus at best. It's a 4 out of 5. It's no longer a 5 out of 5, and I'm hoping for the 5 out of 5 to come back with next season, but I'm also not holding my breath. And it's fine if it ends as a 4 out of 5 show. I'll still probably remember it in the aggregate as a 5 out of 5, but not most recently.
You see, there's no other episode of any other show I'd rather watch over a Mad Men episode of any show that's on right now.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to for me.
That's true. I agree with that.
So the average is going down.
The average is going down? The best show on TV, I just said?
No, that's what I'm saying, is if this is the best show on TV, that's relative to other things. It could be that...
other shows are messing with the curve. Other shows are sucking.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't necessarily mean Mad Men's the best show ever. It could just mean it's a bad year in TV.
But I'll give you this. I don't think it's a bad year in TV, and this is my favorite show. Anyway, for me, I like it. I'm still totally on board with it.